I'd like to call to order the Village Board regular meeting of August 22nd, 2013 at 7:04 p.m. Can I ask the Clerk Simsky to please call the roll?
Mayor Gunter.
Present.
The clerk's here. Trustee Addington.
Here.
Trustee Barker.
Here.
Trustee Barry.
Here.
Trustee Nero.
Here.
Trustee Scott.
Here.
Trustee Seneca. Here. Manager Searle.
Here.
Attorney Zemanek.
Here.
Public Works Director and Assistant Manager May.
Here. Okay, if everyone would please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point, we'd like to open up open forum. We do ask if anybody has any comments to please fill out a form in the back of the room. And Clerk Simsky does have one request, and I'd ask if you could read their name.
Yes. Jim and Mary Ann Licata.
I did this wrong.
When I get there.
You're perfect right there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
Here we are.
yeah, I'm Jim Licata. I live at 732 West 61st Street. And I've been a Westmont resident since 2000. Unfortunately, as you can see, I have MS. That causes significant weakness in my legs and arms. Consequently, when I fall, I'm not able to get up by myself. I use a walker all the time. Actually, this is just one of, we have a number of them when we keep at home, when we keep in the car, we have a lot of walkers. I have a transport chair, but if I use it too much, my already limited ability to stand and walk, even for short distances, gets worse. So I try to avoid using that. When I fall, my wife is not able to help me up alone. And if there are no strong neighbors home, because she always tries to look first to see if someone that can help, she must call 911 for a lift assist. I have participated in a study at the University of Illinois in Urbana to reduce falls. It has helped some, but it's not a total solution. I've done what I can. And I hate to be a drain on Westmont resources, but I don't know what else to do. Lately, I've started charging more for a lift assist. What am I supposed to do? I mean, lie on the floor till some neighbor comes home or something? Different circumstances cause us to use different resources. For example, we don't have any children in school, so we don't use, a large part of our property tax goes to support the school system, but we don't get to use it, but that's just part of what goes on. So I'm just saying that it's very difficult to try to avoid things on a fixed income when you could charge for something you really can't help. That's about it.
And I know that Trustee Seneca, you've had discussions with them, and
Yes.
I don't know if you want to summarize some of those discussions as far as, I mean, they feel that the charge we...
Right,
yeah.
right. Mary Ann and I have spoken, and I see Jim frequently in town, and I know Trustee Nero has also spoken to him, and their situation is somewhat unique in that, I remember when they came before this board to be annexed so that they could move into this wonderful, beautiful white ranch home that they built because of Jim's illness. And I explained these are hard economic times for everyone. And of course, the village has suffered for several years, and we've had to make some horrible, horrible, painful cuts. and some changes to various services, and it's been very difficult. So I know that our fire department is very cognizant of this, and, you know, they work with people, not
By the way,
everyone.
I just want to come, every time that I've called for help, they've been very helpful, very, very courteous, very friendly, very helpful.
Yeah,
They're
this,
all good people.
this was not an easy decision. You know, and we're not singling you out. Of course, we have other people in different parts of town with similar situations. And it's just really an effort to cover our costs. But perhaps Deputy Chief Connolly, you know, can maybe add a little to this, because we want to help you however we can. And we want to see you remain in Westmont for a long, long time, so.
Yeah.
Would it be easier for you to sit, sir, or?
I think it would, it actually
Yes,
would.
you don't
Maybe
have to
sit then.
stand, Jim.
Yes.
Do you need help?
I
Maybe we can give you a hand
think I
here?
got it, okay, once I
You got it.
turn to the walkway.
You could just move the chair over there if you want.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make it
Just do
easy.
that so he can sit there.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
Do it easy as we can for you.
Thank you.
Good?
Thank you.
All right. So, first of all, you know, our sympathies are with Jim. I mean, I had an assistant who had MS. I know what a debilitating disease it is, and a very difficult situation. A couple things, I only had a brief chance to speak to the Cotters as they walked in this evening, but just so everybody understands, our policy is we have a relatively nominal charge, I know it adds up, but relatively nominal charge for lift assist. It is something new that we've implemented. The policy of the fire department has been, in the village, to send those notices out. There's follow-up notices, and we encourage residents to do is to try to submit those through their insurance company. What we do is, I think there's 2 or 3 notices that go out, but for village residents, these never go to collection. So basically what we do is we accept whatever insurance pays. And if insurance doesn't pay anything, then the resident doesn't pay anything. Our goal is to try to recapture and recoup as much as we can from Medicare or insurance or whatever you might have. In terms of, you know, why do we do this, and not just your case, but in general, is a couple things. We don't mind doing the work, and we certainly don't mind assisting our residents. The issue becomes, you know, we take very limited amount of resource. We only have 2 ambulances in service, and we take one of them and tie them up on a lift assist. That's 50% of our capability. So basically, anytime we're helping somebody on the south side of the tracks, there is basically no ambulance available on that side of town, or vice versa on the north side. Sometimes we have to bring an ambulance all the way from the other side of town to help somebody with lift assist. When that happens, there are basically no ambulances in service in our
I usually
town.
tell them on the phone, it's not an emergency.
We-
Lift assist. And if
we
I gotta
understand.
wait, or if you got something else to take care of, go and do it.
We understand. We appreciate that. The challenge we have is, you know, we get that information, but we have a duty, particularly under, you know, the Good Samaritan system, is once we're called, we never know whether that person is injured. I think in your case, we may have transported once or twice. So we just don't know. So we have to treat everybody as if they might be injured, and
I
we,
usually tell them.
yeah, I understand.
Tell them.
So we try to do that. The other thing, and again, this is the more minor concern, is to the extent our ambulances are tied up, and sometimes we have to have Downers Grove or other ambulances come in, when they come into Westmont, that is also lost revenue to the village of Westmont. So every ambulance call, let's say it's a $1,000 ambulance call that's taken by Downers Grove, that's another $1,000 that the village doesn't collect. Again, that's not the main point, but it is, you know, one of the many factors that go into the decision-making. But on the collection side, there is no collection for village residents. We ask you to submit to insurance, recapture whatever we can from insurance, and then that's basically the end. The rest gets written off.
Certainly, that's something we would definitely do.
Good. We appreciate that.
There's, I would cooperate with you in any way I could.
I understand.
So, anyhow, that's the situation, that's why we're,
Yeah.
thank you.
Understand. Can we help you slide
Excuse me,
back over?
Deputy
Jim?
Chief,
Yes, ma'am.
Jim, oh,
so overall, as far as, how much does it cost the village, would you say, in lift assists a year? Do we have that documentation if,
The hard question, Trustee Berry, is what costs do you want to capture? If we took, you know, if we just took, say, 2,500 ambulance calls and divided our total EMS budget by that, I mean, it's $1,000 a call. You know, it's very expensive in that category. If you say the incremental cost of the fuel, I mean, it's relatively small, so it just, which cost do you?
Well, when you say you have a certain breakdown for lift assist, you say that's $400, is that what you said that is?
Oh, no, it's like it's either 50 or 75, I don't have the number.
Okay, so we don't document per se each one of those calls that we have throughout the year and how much we're reimbursed and how much it actually costs the village?
Well, the difference between what we charge and what it might cost. Let's say we might have 60 or 70 lift assists in a year. So the revenue potential is, say, $50 times, these round numbers, 50 calls, that's $2,500. It's not large revenue to the village. And then it's only what we collect out of that is our revenue. Our cost is our cost of maintaining those medics in a standby condition all the time. And anytime we take them and commit them for a lift assist, they're not available for other EMS service. That answers your question.
You know, Jim and Mary Ann both, I would just say, first of all, thank you for coming in, because I know that was not easy for you to come here, and it's extremely appreciated. And as I said before, we're happy you're in Westmont. We were happy the day you came and said, can we be annexed and build this house? So I would say, please don't not call. I mean, we will work with you. We will, you know, we have wonderful staff and wonderful firefighters, and we'll work with you any way we can, you know, to continue to help you when you need help.
I will continue. I've been trying and I haven't succeeded yet, but I will continue trying to work with Medicare to get them to be willing to cover that. But I have not been able to do so yet.
Can I ask how many
the government.
calls are we receiving? You know? How often do you need help? 3 times in a month?
I look back in the last few months, it's about every 10 days on average is what it's been recently.
Every 10 days?
Yeah,
Yeah.
on days when it's hot and humid, that
Understand?
Yeah.
affects me worse.
It's harder.
It's not like we have any roads or.
Yeah, we've done whatever we can in the house to remove fall risk type things.
I've been in your home. It's perfect. It's beautiful.
So, yeah, I really don't know what more we could do.
Of course
But it's,
not, no.
it sounds like
And
that,
I like all of your people, but I'm not doing it to socialize. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll just throw a party then.
well, but it does sound like our fire department's going to work with you, and that
I certainly appreciate that.
hopefully we can cut those down. We won't have to see you 3 times a month.
I am
Yeah.
trying to cut them down.
I know you are. So we appreciate you coming in, so thank you.
He's a determined man, I know that.
Like I said, you got a good helper.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, thank you.
both appreciate the opportunity to at least,
Thank you.
talk to all of you.
Can we give you a hand getting out?
That might move. Okay?
Almost.
Got it? Are you staying or are you going out the door? Okay.
Yeah, you made it, might as well stay. You made it, yeah.
61st Street. Couple houses, one from Fairview. North Side.
Yeah, we'd love for you to stay. Well, Jim is getting his seat. Is there anybody else who'd like to address the board during open forum? If not, then I will close the open forum portion of the meeting and move on to reports. And the mayor, my first report, I'll ask Larry McIntyre, if he could please come to the podium.
Thank you.
This is exciting.
It is my privilege to introduce all of you to Westmont's newest, most famous person. His name is Anthony Kozar. He won the face-off competition on cable TV. Actually, I believe it was back in March, so it was a while back, but since that time, he's been on a whirlwind, I guess, busy schedule that's taken him all over the place, and this has been the first opportunity that we've been able to get him here at a village board meeting, which we've been wanting to do that right away, because obviously having someone in Westmont that has won this type of prestigious award, we wanted to make sure that we were able to give him some recognition as well. So Anthony, if you can come up real quick, I'd like to just ask you a few questions, because you're going to be able to talk about this better than I. I was hoping that maybe you could just talk a little bit about what it is that you do with special effects makeup in your gallery here in town.
Okay. Hi, thanks for having me. I do a little bit of everything from fine art and illustration to sculpture and special effects. With the special effects aspect, I do work for theater, commercials, films, the haunt industry, pretty much anything that actually needs, monsters. But and I also teach classes on weekends. Get a lot of students in who, try to give them a resource for learning this type of art form, because there's nothing in the Midwest for that, and just want to show them that there's more to art than what's necessarily taught in schools, or not taught in schools, unfortunately, and that it's definitely what you make of it. So.
And you have a gallery here in town, and I believe you have an exhibit going on right now?
Yeah, within the studio, I have a gallery in there, and then we have a couple different shows a year. Right now, we're just finishing up having the BFA show from the American Academy of Art, which is my alma mater there in Chicago. And so this is the second year that we've opened up our gallery to allowing the students to come in, have a place to show their work that's outside of school. And it's just a fun night just to have, them showcase their work. And it's up for a month, but it's actually closing this Friday.
And for those of us who watched the show on TV, can you tell us a little bit about that experience? It looked like it was a lot of fun, but maybe the competition got some high stakes there?
Yeah, it was the most stressful time of my life.
It looked like it.
but equally, it was the most fun time, just because it was really weird, because on our season, unlike several of the other seasons, the house, as you call it, was filled with a lot of really good people. So it became like one big group of friends instead of a bunch of little cliques and, backstabbing. So it was just a fun time, and just getting a chance to show the world my form of artwork, and meeting a lot of awesome people out of it, making a lot of cool opportunities, a lot of networking, and keeping in touch with all the people I met. So,
excellent. Well, congratulations again, and Mayor Gunther is going to come. Oh, Manager Searle has a question.
Can I ask a question?
sure.
Where's it located?
Oh. It's at 760 Burr Oak Drive. It's actually right across the street from Ty Warner Park. So it's a really beautiful area, and it's got a little bit of industrial nature, but it's like nice and open. And I think for the past 3 years, every 4th of July, we've been there working. But we just pull out chairs in the back, have a little. Get some Kentucky Fried Chicken and watch the fireworks go on right above the building. So perfect location for that.
And just to mention again, you do teach classes there, and people can go online to learn about those.
Yeah, on my website, I got a few different websites depending on what aspect of the business it is, but the website for the school is kozartatelier.com, and it basically, teaches anywhere from 10, 15 to all the way up to 30 students, and it's all on weekends, so it keeps things easy for people for traveling, as well as if they have school or work schedules. So.
Excellent.
Well, I hope that maybe Larry can convince you that during the next Taste of Westmont, maybe you could come and do a demonstration or show us some of your work.
Yeah, I'd
Let
love
people
to.
kind of meet you.
It'd be really cool.
It'd be great.
Actually, Mayor Gunther has offered himself to do a makeover of We can put him in the haunted forest or something.
Well, he's got the right height to be a creature actor, so.
Very good.
Can I just, I just wanted to ask one question. You know, as Larry knows me very well, I always have had a strong interest in science fiction. I tend to tape a lot of programs, and I have to admit the show that you were on is not something that really attracted my interest to begin with. Of course, when I heard there was a local person involved, I became very interested and started taping it. And the thing that struck me about your work almost immediately is just the sheer artistic talent that you had.
Thank you.
And I was very impressed by that, but it just brings one question to mind to me. What happened to the ant? What happened to that ant on that one show? You know, it was just everything else in the body of your work was so great.
You know, I think there's moments in every creative individual's career where they have that one instance of creative block. Okay. And, you know, you're up there looking and you have all these really cool insects and arachnids that all these artists have chosen that have all these elaborate colors and wings and legs and eyes and a lot to play with. But then when you get an ant that has no color, no surface texture,
No personality.
there's nothing really to work with. And the hard part that I had was working on something that obviously working with an actor as a human, as a model, and trying to keep to those proportions, yet the ant's proportion, unlike the other bugs, the head is so big. So, I don't know. I like I said, on the show, I think I said something like, you know, in 3 days from now, I'll be on bottom. Like, I knew it as soon as I saw it. So, I, you know, luckily survived it.
Well, I think you realized on that show that was a tough project for you, but overall you deserve to win. You did a great job.
Appreciate it.
Mayor Gunther?
You brought your publicist with you? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, this is my dad.
We'd like to present to you this Community Appreciation Award.
Oh, wow, thank you.
And also the key to the city
No
for
way.
having your business here and being so successful and putting us on the map a little bit. So
Cool.
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It is a key.
Beautiful.
It's right there. It's an ant.
All right, moving on, I have a couple quick items. The next Coffee with the Mayor will be on September the 7th on a Saturday at the Westmont Public Library at 10 o'clock. Everybody is welcome. The last one was at Standard Market, and they were a great host. We had about 25 or 30 people there. They also gave a tour of the store. Another thing, just to remind everybody that we've gone to, this is like our third one, every other Thursday is our regular board meetings. We'll be doing that from now on. And that one other thing we're going to try to add to once a month the agenda, we would have committee reports. So maybe starting next month, on the agenda will be committee reports so that everybody, Public Works, Economic Development, that'll be an actual agenda item so we can update it. So that's all I have. And I would ask the clerk, Ms. Simsky, if you have anything.
I do. I just want to remind everyone that school has started, and it's important to watch for our students walking to and from school. So be alert, be looking for kids walking to school. They'll be there. Also, don't be sitting here watching us on your TVs. Get out there. It's not raining anymore. The cruising nights is going on, and it's always fun down there. And lastly, our manager's having some surgery tomorrow on his back, and I just want to wish him the best of luck tomorrow and good health. And also, our ex-trustee Nancy Martins had surgery yesterday on her leg and had to have pins put in, so I hope she's recovering okay too, but mainly I'm concerned about you tonight. And that's all I have. Thank you.
The attorney.
Just wanted to report I attended the Illinois Municipal League Home Rule Attorneys Committee meeting. It's a monthly meeting of attorneys from throughout the state that represent home rule communities. Although Westmont's lost home rule status, they've still graciously allowed me to attend those meetings. They provide great legislative, case law, and other updates and discussions. What I'm planning on doing, rather than waste meeting time giving you updates, is probably vet some of the applicable issues I think may be of interest to you. Just get them in writing quickly, circulate them out to you, and then if you want to have further discussion, leave it up to the mayor and the board. Everything from zoning for medical marijuana dispensaries and how communities are tackling that issue, if at all, to a variety of issues. And it's a much more informative meeting and source of information than the quick legislative updates you get, like in an IML bulletin or something. So with your permission, I'm going to continue to attend those meetings and provide some legislative updates. That's all I have.
Good idea.
Other than that, have we called for the executive session yet?
We have not, but it is on the agenda.
Oh, it's printed on the agenda.
It is printed on the agenda. We will have an executive session concluding this meeting.
Okay.
Manager Searle. The executive session will be for the purpose of discussing pending litigation and to discuss the case Hawthorne Bank of Wheaton versus Westmont.
Thank you.
Manager Searle.
Thank you. The only thing I wanted to bring up actually grows out of an item that's further on in the agenda, which has to do with funding programs that we provide to help some of our businesses. The mayor and I had a conversation this week where we were approached by an existing business that has been here a long time in town, and we've talked a lot about wanting to attract new businesses to the downtown. We've also talked a lot about the importance of trying to retain existing businesses. And the issue that we'd like to look at, and we'd like to look at it from a staff level to begin with and try to bring something to a committee discussion, is when we have a business that's been here a long time and they just want to say move across the street. They're taking essentially the same business. They probably have a new sign that's going to have to be constructed and put up there. Does it seem fair to charge a full-blown sign fee for some business that's been in town and it's been contributing to our tax base for all these years, just because they're making that move across the street, whereas maybe we could be losing them to another community? So we've had that conversation. I don't know, I know I've talked a little bit about this with our community development director. I don't know if you want to make any other comments about it.
But while she's coming, we also talked about even a business expanding, putting new sign, if they're existing business, not just moving, but maybe just expanding where they're at, not to hit them with all the fees.
Right, looking at the overall sign ordinance and how we apply the metrics, I guess, in which we determine how much we're going to charge for those signs, so.
Thank you. I don't have much to add other than staff would certainly be supportive of looking at this as an economic development incentive and a way to, help our existing business owners stay in our community. So we would be happy to do some research and then report back at a building and zoning committee meeting of the board, if that's the direction.
I guess we would just ask, if this is something that the board members, if you have any specific questions or have any concerns about us pursuing this. In my particular opinion, the issue was brought to my attention this week. I thought the individual made a fairly compelling case that I thought was worth some examination and further discussion by the board. But if it's not something that you feel that strongly about, we would like to know that as well.
Retention's just as important as getting the people, new businesses here, so.
Yeah. We have.
Why not?
Yeah.
Good. We're probably looking at that maybe down a future meeting. We'll have it on the agenda.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
That's all I had.
Trustees, we're going to go over to the other side. Trustee Barker, I'll go in the middle.
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Trustee Neural.
Just a couple of things. I'd like to give the board and everybody else a quick update on the Stormwater Committee. We've had our, I believe, 4th meeting this past Monday, and it's going very well. We kind of broke off into a smaller subcommittee that this week actually was tasked with creating the criteria for selecting projects that we're going to be working on in the near future. Once we have this criteria created, then we're going to go through collectively as a whole group and select the initial projects that we're going to recommend to the board to do. And the drop dead date for this goal is October 17th, that board meeting. We want to have our initial, I believe it's 1 million, Spencer, of projects that we could deem necessary for the board's attention to hopefully approve. So
Million projects or $1 million?
$1 million in projects, which hopefully will address some bigger problems. But aside from that, that's kind of where we are with that. I don't know if Steve, you got anything else to add?
No, it sums it up. I do know, I sat in for a little bit of it, but Spencer and Kim sat with that subcommittee, I think, for 3 hours the other day, and they've made, you'll be impressed with the progress that they report back with.
Awesome. And other than that, we're coming up with a little pilot program to promote rain barrels in town. It's yet to be determined, but we're going to figure out some sort of program to really help get them out there. And as soon as something gets finalized, I'll have it and present it to the entire board. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Seneca.
Thank you. Just wanted to remind everybody to piggyback on Ginny's comments that next week is the final week of the street fair, so a lot is planned. It's going to be a dance party, it's a great demonstration, so definitely come out for the street fair next week. It's going to be perfect weather, unlike tonight. And then I just wanted to mention that on Saturday, this past Saturday, I attended the parade for Emily Wheeler. Emily is a high school freshman this year, and she is battling cancer. She's just an incredible young woman. And the Chief Mulhern helped put together a parade for her that had, I want to say, 50 to 60 bagpipers and friends and family and neighbors right down Independence in Westmont. And, you know, I'm always proud of this town, but I'll tell you, never was I more proud than I was last Saturday. And just seeing the look on her face, it was just phenomenal. And we do have a wonderful town, so it was great. And thank you, Chief Mulhern, for putting that together.
Very proud to be a very small part.
It was excellent. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Trustee Barry.
I just wanted to piggyback Clerk Shimsky also. The kids are back in school. Chief Mulhern, as we know, that most of our speeding violators we find are residents. So if we please could all slow down, this protects the whole community and double check. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Addington.
Nothing, sir.
Trustee Scott.
As long as Mr. Forsberg's here, I just want to let him know that I had the opportunities to use the services of one of our Westmont Auto Mile dealers, Bob Rorman, this last week for my wife. And I couldn't be happier with the service and the way we were treated there. And it was no long progress, that's for sure. It took forever for us to make a decision. I think the dealer, the salesman who had to put up with us, and my wife's trying to make a decision on which color and which car to be. It was like a 5-hour ordeal. And he earned every bit of his commission that day. So,
Is she watching this?
Probably, and I'll hear about it when I get home. It's not the first time, it won't be the last time. But other than that, congratulations to you and that group, because they were great guys. Other than that, that's it.
Very good.
I think that's enough.
And Manager Searle, you have one other item?
I just want to make one more comment. Over the last week or so, I've had 2 opportunities to hear Trustee Barker talk about his Westmont First program, and I didn't want that to go unmentioned, that he is now on the speakers tour.
Yes.
He spoke this past week to the Rotary Club, did an excellent job of explaining the new program, and he's been also describing it in great detail at the various mayors' coffees. And this past week, he was able to, as this goes along, he's framing more and more detail as to what's going to happen next with the program. And I'm sure if there's any clubs or organizations out there that would love to hear him speak, I'm sure he would be happy to be contacted or let us know.
Thanks for tooting my horn, but
I'd
be happy to come and
some of
talk
us
to
did
any of
listen to the presentation.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to any organization that would like to have me come and talk about it. I'm going to sit down with some of the chamber folks on Wednesday, and it's growing, it's doing great, and we are we're all members, and,
There's no dues?
and there are no dues. So,
Good. All right. Moving on, the items removed from the consent agenda. Does any of the board members want any of the items removed from the consent?
Yes, sir. I would like to ask that our number 1 and number 2, 110-31638 and 110-31641 be removed from the consent agenda so we can discuss it.
Those two purchase orders?
Yeah.
Should I read what else is left on there?
So those would be removed, and then after we go review them and have a chance to discuss it, right? Is that how you usually, if you remove something from the consent agenda?
It gets moved down to the regular voting portion of the agenda where it's open for discussion.
Okay.
And
Do I
I
need a
think
motion?
procedurally, yeah, we
We need a motion and probably vote on that.
And I'll make that as a motion.
Second, Scott.
Been a motion and a second to remove the two items from the consent agenda and move it down to.
Again, just one more time to those 2 items.
What are the two items, Trustee Addington?
What do you want me to?
The first one, which is purchase order 110-31638, Curry Motors, and the second one is purchase order 110-31641, Public Safety Direct.
Okay. It's the first two under the purchase orders.
Right.
Okay. So there has been a motion to remove those two purchase orders from the consent agenda. Any further questions? Not roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
So I'll put that at the end of new business?
yes.
Okay, I will do that. All right, so if I can ask Manager Searle to read the rest of the consent agenda that remains?
Okay, the remaining items include the village board minutes from the regular meeting on August 8th. We also have a finance ordinance in the amount of $988,051.17. Then the remaining purchase orders include purchase order 110-31620 to DuPage Convention Tourism Bureau in the amount of $26,872.48. We also have a purchase order 110-31612 to CDW Government Incorporated in the amount of $17,417.12. And next, we have purchase order 110-31616 to Don Morris Architects in the amount of $11,963.14. And those are the remaining purchase orders and the conclusion of what's left on the consent agenda.
Any questions? If not, I entertain a motion to approve as
Motion
read.
to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to approve the consent agenda as read. Any questions? Anybody from the public have a question? If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passed. Under unfinished business, 132 South Linden Avenue, Burbom revised variance approval request. Board to consider an ordinance approving the following revised requests from John Burbom for a front yard deck in an R3 single-family detached residential district. Zoning code variance to allow lot coverage greater than the 35% maximum allowed for the purpose of approving a front yard deck on a lot with existing non-conforming lot width. And 2, zoning code variance to allow the construction of a front yard deck within the required side yard setback. Manager Searle.
Okay, so the applicant was denied by the village board on July 1st due to concerns about the size of the deck in the front yard. Revised plans reduced the project scope, so the front yard setback variance is no longer needed. The attached diagram shows the reduction. The revised deck will increase lot coverage by 1% to 39%. It was previously proposed at 40.2%. The applicant has increased the structure separation from the street, decreased the amount of proposed lot coverage, and maintained mature vegetation in the revised front yard deck proposal. And I believe we have the applicant here to explain and answer any questions that the board members may have.
I have none.
Thank you. Just quickly to recap and show the visuals, if you don't have them in front of you. I apologize, it's a little not quite clear here on the camera. This was the original deck as proposed that was denied in July. You can see it sits in, obviously it's a sizable structure in the front of the house. The board denied this proposal. The main concern being that the porch was its overall size and how far it encroached into the front yard. So I worked again with Jill, and the board was willing to hear a revised proposal as unfinished business, and I appreciate that. So I've worked to revise, bring the structure as a whole back closer to the house. It no longer requires a variance for the front yard setback. You can see this hashed area in front is the 100 square feet that is allowed by ordinance within the front yard setback. The rest of the structure is not within the front yard setback, and you can see that its overall encroachment into the front yard is reduced, and its overall size is reduced by about 20%. There is one final drawing that Jill put together that just sort of compares the two. All of this hashed area in front was the original proposal that has now been removed. So you can see all of the frontmost pieces have been removed, and the whole structure sits back closer to the deck. There is, of course, I think the variances that remain is that there's a foot encroachment onto the northern side. You can see it is in keeping with the edge of the house, so it's consistent. You'll remember, you probably don't remember, but there is a hedgerow all along here in the front on this side that is trees and large brush that screens it from the neighbors to the north. And there is also the other variance is total lot coverage. My lot, you can kind of see there's an existing drive. The lot is very narrow, and there's a drive that runs all the way along the side of the house to a detached garage in the back. And so my lot is currently at 38% coverage. I've worked with the village engineer and are going to remove part of this sidewalk and cover the rest of it with permeable pavers. So the actual lot coverage increase is 1% from where it currently is to from 38% to 39%.
Jill, do you have anything to add?
No, I think the applicant's done a pretty good summary. We appreciate him working with us to try to make the plan a little bit more palatable in the front yard. As he noted, the deck has decreased in size by almost 200 square feet, and we appreciate the working to try to decrease the lot coverage impact also by using pervious pavers and reducing some of the hard surface in the rear of the lot as well.
Before we get to trustees, anybody in the audience would like to ask a question? If not, trustees.
I just want to say thank you. I know we played some phone tag and we had an exchange of emails. I think this plan is more suitable to the area and to the neighborhood. The question I have is, you'll still be able to keep the trees in the front now, right?
Yes.
So that's, a plus, because before, weren't you going to lose at least one of those trees?
There are 2 trees that are very close to the house. And those, they're medium-sized trees. Those will be removed. But there's 2 large trees in the very front of the yard which will stay, and there's some other smaller trees kind of back that will stay as well.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you working with us and going back to the drawing board, so to speak. I have no problem with it as it stands today.
Thanks.
I would like to ask, what is the deck material? Is it treated lumber, or is it tracks?
I plan to use treated lumber.
Treated lumber, okay.
I applaud you for not giving up on your idea and finding a solution.
Thanks.
We both win.
Yeah.
Village wins, and so do you.
I agree.
And thanks for the communications, too.
Same.
Any other comments? Now he's got a place to watch the Babe Ruth games.
Amen.
That's it. Box seats.
Any other?
Oh, we have, I think,
Yes.
oh,
I've looked at some, yeah. Thanks for the tip. I have looked at it some.
Any other questions from the board? Not, I guess I'll entertain a motion.
So
so,
moved.
second, Seneca?
Approve as presented. Addington, seconded by Seneca. Motion to approve as presented. On the question,
John, is it okay we handle both
with one?
1 and 2 at the same time, or should we do them as separate items?
They were drafted as a single ordinance.
So the passage of this would approve both?
Correct.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, I'll ask for a roll call.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Nebo.
Yes.
I'll let pass, so begin construction.
Keep filling.
Thank you.
We'll get a permit. Yeah.
Moving on to new business, 36 South Lincoln Street. Mumi, hope I said that right, variance approval request. Board to consider an ordinance approving the following request from G. Renee and Christopher Mooney for a home addition with a front porch in the R3 Single Family Detached Residential District. 1, zoning code variance to allow the construction of an addition within a required setback in a side yard adjoining the street. And 2, zoning code variance to allow the construction of a front porch larger than 100 square feet in the required front yard setback and side yard adjoining the street. Manager Searle.
Okay, the applicant proposes a two-story home addition extending the existing house to the south, encroaching into the required setback along the street by 6 feet 8 inches. The front porch would be extended as well to match the new width of the house, totaling 223 square feet. The house is located in a drainage study area, and the applicants have met the lot coverage maximum of 35% with the variance requests. The applicant's neighbor at 35 South Grant Street spoke in favor of the variance request, and the Planning and Zoning Commission made a unanimous recommendation for the approval, noting that the home addition would remain in character with the neighborhood, which has a lot of existing setback encroachments.
And then we also have a letter that was handed to us from D. Adams from 26 South Lincoln. It also said that they support Renee, Chris, and Liza. So I think she's the one that's holding. Okay, thank you. It's all yours.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, trustees, and village staff. We are Renee and Chris Mumey and Eliza, and we live at 36 South Lincoln Street. We're before you today requesting 2 variances to code to allow us to renovate our house to one that is suitable for a growing family. A little history about us and 36 South Lincoln Street. I bought this residence in 2005 as a single professional woman new to Illinois. The small-town charm of Westmont, distance from Chicago and O'Hare, combined with the charm of this 882-square-foot, 91-year-old home with rich and beautifully mature landscape was perfect for me. I was dating Chris at the time, and eventually he moved in, and we were married in 2010. The house was perfect for the 2 of us. Fast forward to February of 2012, and our dear Eliza was born. 882 square feet was a little tight for the 3 of us, but still manageable. At least she's too young to complain about her 7 by 10-foot house for now, or her bedroom, rather. Here we are now, and we're overjoyed to be expecting another baby this coming February. Now, 882 square feet seems very claustrophobic, and so here we are. And by the way, I mentioned to Planning and Zoning that is not Facebook approved. Nobody on Facebook knows we're pregnant, so don't go blasting that out.
Well, this is on television, so.
I know, but the odds are very slim that my family is all on the East Coast, and his is downstate, so we're probably
great.
safe. Don't go blabbing it.
We did have one neighbor come and say they found out by watching this on TV.
We did. I got busted for like 2 weeks. I kept saying, I need to swing by there. I need to swing by there and tell them. And sure enough, I didn't. And then I was out of town this past weekend, and he got called out. So I'm glad I wasn't there. I felt bad, though. We've spoken to 4 contractors to explore renovation options that will give us more living space for a growing family. It's important to us. She thinks it's funny.
It's important for us to maintain as much outdoor living space as when the weather cooperates, you will always find us outside. Once we had a rough idea of what contractors thought our best course of action was, we worked closely with Jill Ziegler, who has been extremely helpful through this process. 1,000 times thank you, Jill. Our main hardship and reason for requesting these variances is due to the fact that adhering to current code would be forcing us to renovate our home into a long, skinny house, essentially building a row house without the rest of the row. Our house was built in 1922 and has beautiful mature trees and landscaping in the backyard that we've worked hard to preserve. It is important for us to keep the backyard intact to allow our children a safe environment to play outside. Our request for variance to code is not setting a new precedent along Richmond Street. From Grant to Hudson, corner homes encroach into the required side yard setback ranging from about 8 feet to 23 feet. Our neighbors behind us, who actually came to planning and zoning and gave us his thumbs up and support, have a 16-foot setback. We're requesting 18.2. We understand that we live in a critical area for Westmont's stormwater drainage study and respect the importance to stay within the current 35% lot coverage code. Excluding the April 18th storm, we have never had flooding in the house in the 8 years we've lived there. We fine-tuned our request a few times over to ensure that we stayed within that 35% lot coverage. Last week, we met with the Village Planning and Zoning Commission and received their agreement to the findings of fact, as well as their unanimous recommendation for approval to the variances of code. We want to invest our money here, and we believe that Westmont is moving in the right direction. Our only predicament is that we need a larger home than 882 square feet to raise our family. We hope that you allow us to improve our home so we can stay in Westmont.
Any questions from anybody in the audience? Trustees?
I have a couple more slides to show. This is just the front view of the house. You can see we have a substantial amount of space off to the side. And then here's another side angle to the house. Again, we would come about yay out. I think in your packet you have these 4 shots of the backyard and our outdoor living space. And this house may be a little bit out of our budget, but this is kind of my dream of what I want to build. There's a lot of things on here I know we won't be able to. I don't think I'm going to have that top second floor patio outside of the master bedroom, but live to dream, right? So really what I want to do is I would like to wrap the porch around, maybe, again, it all comes down to cost for us, but I would love to have the front porch wrapped around. It's a great corner. It's a really quiet neighborhood. We're just a block behind Village Hall. I love it here, and I want to be able to have, again, as much outdoor space as indoor space, and then we go up a floor. But that's kind of the look and feel, really staying in character with our house is a Sears and Roebuck home, so we want to stay in that same character and stay consistent with the rest of the neighborhood.
So you will lose a couple of those fir trees to the south, huh?
I'm not sure. Actually, we've requested to go out 12.5 feet. That's the max to get us to 35%. We may only go out 10 feet, 8 feet.
Okay.
We haven't gone to any architects at this point.
Okay.
We wanted to understand how far I could go before I dumped money into an architect.
Yeah.
So I may not lose them.
Also,
I've lost one in that storm.
I saw
it
that.
sort of just
It blew up. Lightning
Literally.
hit at like 9 p.m. and scared the daylights out of us and stabbed the house. I mean, there were splinters
I've never
stuck into
seen
the
anything
house,
like it. Down to Cass Avenue,
Oh,
splinters.
It was a lot of cleanup and terrifying. It was the loudest boom you've ever heard.
And also your neighbors to the east are fine with it too.
Yes. Yeah, we had great support from all of our neighbors. I went door to door before they got their letter from me.
But I'm
from
to
Joe.
understand there's no firm plan at this point?
No, but not beyond this picture, but we've talked to some of the builders, and before I invested other money, I wanted to make sure that I had, but that will stay in that same character of a front porch that may just extend the span, it may wrap around, again, it depends on how much indoor living space we'll have.
Yeah, and maybe the attorney, I guess is more of a question, how do we approve something like that without a plan?
You know, in the residential district, you don't approve site plans, and you don't approve building plans. as opposed to the commercial district where you would review a site plan and want to see the architectural features, et cetera. If it were not for these variances, she could build an expansion as of right, and you would never see the plans. I think in this case, her philosophy of, I want to know what I can build to first before I dump thousands of dollars
Smart.
into an architect or design professional makes some sense.
I see. Thank you.
If you want, you do have the option of, even though you don't review site plans, you could say we're granting a variance, but you want to review the plans to make sure they're in character with the neighborhood, but you really don't have, aside from your power of a variance, authority to do that.
That's what the staff's for, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Staff will handle that.
Thanks, Harold. I didn't know that either.
And we'll see the progress when we
So
come
now
to
we
meetings.
Thank you.
We're going to see it every time we drive down. They're going to do a nice
Yeah,
job with
we'll
it.
see when we
You're
come to
welcome to
meetings.
swing in anytime. Once this baby's gone, I'll have a margarita with you. Right now, I'm as sober as they get.
Any other questions? If not, I
Looks like a
entertain
great plan.
Motion
So
Motion
moved.
to approve?
to approve as presented.
Second.
Yes.
Again, motion was made and seconded to approve as presented.
Again, both 1 and 2 on the setbacks.
The attorney is shaking his head yes. On the question, if not, roll call, please.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Well, we look forward to seeing the addition in what, your deadline's February? Sounds like before
It
that.
is February. I'm sweating it out as it is.
All right. Well, congratulations. We look forward to the second little one.
Thank you all so much. Eliza appreciates her larger bedroom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I have to tell just a real quickie. You said about being on TV and don't tell anybody. My wife and I were going down the steps, or going up the steps in the Lincoln Memorial in Washington DC, and a guy was coming down and says, "I know you, I watch you on television."
Oh, my gosh.
And Kathy said, "Really, you live in Westmont?" He said, "No." But they happened to get our broadcast in his town through cable, and he watched it because he thought we had interesting meetings.
He used to
So-
think that too.
Just so I'm not trying to say, hey, you've had it, but you never know.
I know, I could be busted, but that's okay. We're at 15 weeks, so we're at the disclosure mark at this point. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you. She's cute. Moving on to the next, the agenda item, B, 44 South Cass Avenue, State Farm Insurance Special Use. The board to consider an ordinance approving the following request from Tom Couleras, the owner, and Charles Matisse,
I see what
the
you're saying.
third, the tenant of State Farm Insurance, to allow the operation of an insurance office on the ground floor in a B1 limited business district. Number one, special use permit, and number two, development permit. Manager Searle.
Applicant requests to operate an insurance office on the ground floor with 3 to 5 staff members. Parking needs are sufficient in the building's private parking lot and underground parking garage. The office will occupy an existing tenant space with the entrance off of Richmond Street. Customers may patronize other local businesses in the downtown. Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval and recommended that the business seek improvement with the Chamber of Commerce.
Hi, my name is
Sorry.
Chaz Matese.
Seek involvement.
Seek involvement, yeah.
Yeah, my reading skills tonight are challenged. I'm sorry.
It's because you're back.
Fair argument, you got the surgery tomorrow. I got to follow the baby this time. In the Planning and Zoning Commission, I went first. I didn't have to follow the baby, so here I am now. Well, anyways, my name is Chaz Matese. Thank you for allowing me the time today to present my case to earn a special use permit. I used these similar remarks at the Planning and Zoning Commission, and like was already stated, had unanimous approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm a new State Farm agent looking to open an office in the downtown business district, specifically the 44 South Cass location. I've been with State Farm for over 5 years. It's approaching almost 6 years now since this process has started for me. I've worked in 2 agents' offices in different suburbs, helped them open new successful agencies. I've worked at our corporate offices in Bloomington for some time. The last 8 months I've spent in a rigorous training program designed to assist successful launch of my agency in a long-term career here in Westmont. Back when I started the process of becoming an agent, there were multiple opportunities available, but I specifically chose Westmont. Westmont stood out to my wife and I because of its family-friendly feel. I think a lot of the ideas and the things that were brought up tonight it really exemplify why we specifically chose Westmont. The multitude of community activities, the street fairs, the farmers market, the proximity and ease of access to Chicago. My wife works at a law firm in Chicago and commutes. Although we do not currently live in Westmont, we chose Westmont because we like what it has to offer, and after the business is up and running, we do plan to move to the area. After I applied for and was approved for the agent spot in Westmont, I knew the downtown area was perfect fit for my office location. It's a location that will be mutually beneficial to the village, its residents, and my agency. The space at 44 South Cass provides ample opportunity for expansion in the future, negating the necessity to move out of that space or even the downtown business district. Recently, as some of you may know, there was an agent, Chris Angelieri, who moved her office out of the downtown business district. She did that looking to her future. I'm not here to replace her business, to take her business. I'm starting from no customers, looking to grow a successful business on my own and utilize how the relationships, the quality of those relationships she's built with residents and businesses in Westmont. My team and I have talked to a lot of local businesses and really got a feel for the relationships that she's built, and we look to continue that with all of Westmont's residents into the future. So in her absence, I plan to nurture and build new relationships with customers, similar to the way she has done so in the past. Currently, 35% of Westmont residents do have State Farm insurance. I'm not going to be their specific agent, but as they're downtown patronizing local businesses and restaurants, if they stop in with questions, concern, I'm more than happy to help, be an advocate for them, an advocate for your constituents and customers of State Farm, who a company I greatly do respect. As my office opens and evolves and grows, I will be a job creator in the community as well too. Currently, I have 3 employees, and I'm looking to add 1 or 2 more, specifically local residents, to my employment before I open. Already, my team has positively financially impacted the village through patronization of local restaurants and shops. 2 of my employees even plan to move to Westmont from southern suburban locations. As their leases expire at their current apartments, they do plan to move to the area, again, providing positive financial impact to the village in the downtown business area. My business plan also lays out an opportunity and a plan to create an internship program with local high schools. A great way to give high school juniors, seniors some opportunity of real-life business experience, whether they want to continue on in business school after that or join the workforce right away. It'd be extremely relevant experience for them. My office will be open at times that are quite complementary to other businesses in the downtown area. Monday through Thursday, I'll be open from 9 to 7, Friday, 9 to 5, Saturday 10 to 3, and Sundays as necessary as customers require. My business plan also shows that I plan to grow by 50 new households or families per month. As much as I would like to have all 50 of those households and families be from Westmont, it's just not a reality. But what a great way for Westmont to be showcased with customers who are coming from other local suburbs or other counties to see what we have to offer here in Westmont. Aside from seeing what we currently have in place, the existing local businesses, it's a great way to showcase some of the vacant commercial and residential real estate that is available in the village of Westmont. 44 South Cass, the planned development has experienced a high vacancy rate over the last few years. It was up until my potential move in there, it's experienced about a 40% vacancy rate, so I can fill a big void that's been there. I hope to be and watch that the new house that they just got approved. It's right down the street. I can actually see it from the doorway of 44 South Cass. So it's a good location. It's a location that I hope to be able to grow in one that will help showcase the village. My office will pride itself on being active in the community. As a corporation, State Farm is highly invested in the communities where they have offices. I plan to do the same here in the village of Westmont. I've had some discussions already about the Chamber of Commerce and some ways we can be involved and help out there. I've had discussions who I met just Larry, who's in charge of the street fairs tonight, and ways my team can be involved in community service. State Farm provides grants to its employees who do 40 hours of community service each calendar year. As a requirement, I have my team do community service locally here in Westmont. So we've already touched on some options and availabilities for the next calendar year. After 40 hours is completed, State Farm will donate $500 per employee who has done that community service. So another way I can positively financially impact the village. We also plan to heavily promote village events. With Larry tonight, again, we talked about promoting some things at the Taste of Westmont next year and how I can benefit from that and how the village can benefit from that. So there's lots of opportunity for me to be an active community member, an active member of the downtown business district. Through many examples I provided, it's evident my office will be a center of influence both from a relationship standpoint and a financial standpoint. It needs to be located in the downtown business district. I look forward to a long, successful relationship with the village and its residents. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. After that, I ask you make a recommendation to approve my special use permit.
Jill, is there anything you'd like to add or comment on?
The Plan Commission received this very well. They were very positive, especially about the volunteering events and just being a very active member of the community. So they thought that this would be a nice addition to the downtown.
Anybody from the audience would like to comment or add anything? If not, trustees.
I could just say no.
I'm just trying to figure out, is Ginny going to go after him for the Rotary Club, or am I going after him for the Lions Club first?
We'll probably both go after it.
We plan to talk to everyone who, any way we can get involved, we're happy to do that.
Great. Sounds like a good fit.
We don't have any further questions. Trustee Barry.
Larry, do you have anything to add?
Wish we had 20 more with that attitude.
Right, again, I would entertain a motion. One motion to approve this is all we need.
Motion to approve, Scott.
Second, Seneca.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve as presented. Any further questions? If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
And congratulations.
Great, thank you for
Forward
your
to-
time.
Glad to have you.
Feel free to stop by anytime after we're up and running. I'd be happy to talk.
Charles, the chief has something for you to sign.
Okay, perfect.
He wants car insurance.
New business C, IDOT Street and Highway Maintenance Resolution. The board to consider an Illinois Department of Transportation resolution for the village's 2013 motor fuel tax resurfacing projects. Motor fuel tax number 14-00000-00-GM. Manager Searle.
This is a request to appropriate a sum of $300,000 for the 2013 motor fuel tax resurfacing project, which is a common source of revenue we use each year to do portions of resurfacing within the village. I don't know that if the Public Works Director has any more specific information he wants to provide. There are certain things that the funds can be used for. They are primarily for road resurfacing, but they can be used for other things as well.
And one of the things we were using it for, we had a discussion regarding using it as a tool for bond repayment when we got into that process. But this allotment is available since that won't be coming up till next year anyway. So with this, we're behind with a lot of resurfacing, but North Grant, North Adams, had a significant water main project. I don't want to say last year, was earlier, more than a year ago. And we've been eagerly awaiting to resurface those two streets. So this, the resolution is just appropriating the funds, but that is the project it'll be applied towards.
And that's in this year's budget.
Yeah, it'll be done this fall.
Any questions from anybody in the audience? Any further questions from the board? Then I'd entertain a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Motion to approve, Barker.
Second, Addington.
Motion made in second. Any further questions? If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee Scott?
Yes.
And you and I will be signing these because Noriel wants them immediately tomorrow.
To ensure that it could be done this fall, right? Eager to
Very
turn them in.
good. New business D, Americans Disability Act Transition Plan. The board to consider an ordinance approving a proposal and agreement from Accessibility Consultation and Training, ACT Services Incorporated, an accessibility consultation and training service for preparation of a village's ADA transition plan. Manager Searle.
Okay, for those of us who've been around here for a number of years, you'll recall the initial preparation of the Americans with Disabilities Act Transition Plan. In my particular case, I worked with our former Community Development Director, Bob Gleason, in putting together that original plan for the village. There have been some recent legislative changes, and this particular consulting group, it's my understanding, has worked heavily with park districts throughout the state in a kind of consortium capacity to save money in trying to make adaptations to the original plan to come into compliance with some of the new aspects of the regulation. So this is an organization that's been examined by our Public Works Department, and we're recommending that we use their services as well. The agreement is in a proposed amount of $9,200 to help bring our ADA transition plan up to the level that it needs to be given the recent federal law changes.
And again, the transition plan takes into account every aspect of the American Disabilities Act in buildings,
Right.
outside.
Yeah, when we talk about Americans with Disability Act, we talk about not only just physical structures, you know, things like accesses to buildings, getting up stairs, putting elevators where they don't exist, ramps where they're needed.
Even the curb cuts at the end of
Curb
streets.
cuts, providing adequate, what do you call it, raised lettering and tactile surfaces for folks that are challenged that way. But there are other aspects to the law that also address how people work in the workplace. And so it's a very comprehensive law, and there's, wish I could remember, there's probably at least 3 titles, I think, that are involved in it. And I believe this most recent group of changes addresses more of the physical aspects of it. And I don't think the intent was that, you know, we're going to pass this law, geez, what was it, 10 years ago, and then, you know, this would be the answer to all issues involving folks that have challenges. I think it was something that was recognized at the time that it was going to be a transitionary law in progress over time. And, you know, there was a lot of concern initially about communities being able to afford to do the changes that need to be done, and I think what's been proven over time is communities have done what they've been able to afford to do. And again, this is another sort of level or challenge to reach that next level to bring us closer to having a environment that people that have these disabilities that was once characterized as it's going to eventually be pretty much all of us that are going to fall in this category at some point in our lifetime, providing those kind of services and access to services and programs and things that we need to do to live our life.
And I think by law, they mandate that all public bodies have this transition plan.
Yes.
They evaluate all their facilities and programs, and then you prioritize and rank them, or prioritize and you have a plan to implement the different phases of it based on your finances and based on what you can afford and not afford. And I think that's the first step, and I think this just updates us. The transition plan.
Well, I think the Disabilities Act has always been something that sat close to home with me because, you know, my mom wore a prosthesis almost her entire life. And, you know, whatever we can do to make it easier for folks like you You know, one of these days, I think we'll probably end up seeing you in one of those motorized, just don't speed.
Actually, we have I have a motorized scooter at home.
Do you? Okay.
But I don't use it a lot. I try to use the walk with me to do it, Kim.
But we got to make it as convenient as we can for you and for folks like my mom for 80-some years. And, you know, this is the next step forward, is to tell us what else we have to do.
Any other comments? If not, we're looking for a motion to approve this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made and approved. And any further question? Not, roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
New business E, life safety grant funding increase. Board to consider an ordinance to temporarily revise the downtown development grant program as it pertains to fire alarm system improvements through fiscal year 13-14. Manager Cyril.
Okay, at the August 8th Public Safety Committee meeting, this item was discussed, where it was recommended that a temporary funding increase of $30,000 in order to assist the B1 businesses with the cost of complying with code requirements pertaining to life safety aspects. In order to make the grant available to as many individuals as possible, the committee also recommended reducing the grant award from $3,000 to $1,500. This provision would sunset at the start of the 2014-2015 fiscal year and revert back to $3,000. There was also consensus at the committee discussion that there would be a 30-day deadline from the ordinance approval for all grant submissions. And
We lost the chair.
we lost the chair, yeah. However, as some of you will recall, there was a fairly detailed table that was presented at that committee meeting that provided the different options. So I think, you know, it was something that we had a complete consensus on, if I remember right. Maybe some of the other staff members at that meeting could speak up, but I thought that was the conclusion of the conversation.
Yeah, before we get too deep into some of these discussions, I've had some input from the community. And quite honestly, some of the input I've got kind of indicates that maybe we need to table this for more discussion. And the only reason that I'm saying that is because of the fact that this has been a downtown development grant, and quite honestly, I'm getting hit from some businesses that are saying, well, I'm not in the downtown, but I still have to do this. Why am I not eligible? And I've kind of given them the history of Main Street and some of those things, and they said, yeah, I understand all that, but I'm still not eligible. My business should be able to apply for this along with, you know, anybody else. You've segregated this into the downtown-only business district, and so I'm suggesting that we table this and give that part of the discussion. Do we want to open this up to other parts of the community, even if it meant cutting the maximum amount of the grant by another amount? And so I guess that's one of the suggestions that I'm making, is that maybe under the new rules that we have, is we table this, or I'll make a motion to table so we can discuss it some more, and then we can come back at a future date.
Could I offer one other alternative perspective, maybe? And I'll ask the village attorney to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this was kind of put in place when we put the business district in place in the downtown.
When we did the B1.
And tied it to that specifically.
That's
And
correct.
We also have another business district in the south. And I actually had a conversation very similar to what you're talking about today with another business owner that happens to be in the south part of town. And it was along the same lines. Boy, wouldn't it be great to have this kind of an opportunity? And the way our conversation ended was, well, maybe the board needs to have a conversation about looking at some of these other business development districts where we look at some of the specific problems in those areas and to develop a program that's specific to what the needs are, you know, for that particular area of the community.
I guess one thing that comes up, why would we be increasing this? If we had this grant money and the grant money ran out, why would we look to increase, you know, we just had discussion where we can't afford school painting to slow down and signs and things like that, but we're gonna put $30,000 more in the grant money that we've already used, that those previous boards set up that amount for a reason.
It was actually more at one time. We had reduced it because we did not get enough applications.
And I'm in that group that I wish I had some grant money to come up with that fire alarm. So to, you know,
Well, originally it
to
was
cost
for
the taxpayers
facades.
money on a fire alarm ordinance, to cost this other $30,000 that we're gonna come up with and penalize basically the taxpayers over an ordinance that the board created, I'm with Jim that I think this really needs a lot more discussion, because, you know, again, just to throw $30,000 to something that I guess I don't understand why that we're doing this. I mean, I guess ultimately for the fire alarms.
Right, correct.
Well,
Strictly
or
for
any,
that.
or any
But that's
life
where the
safety
money's being
improvement.
used.
Yeah, it's not just the fire alarms.
Not
it's-
just the,
yeah.
not just fire
But that's where this money, that's why the increase is here, to help get more fire alarms done in downtown.
Yes, there were a number of
I just wanna be clear on that.
individuals who hadn't complied yet,
Absolutely.
and the conversation was started because of that.
But we would not exclude
I
any,
haven't
mean,
seen the draft ordinance, so I'm not sure if it excludes, you know, electrical and plumbing types of improvements.
that's not the way we wanted to set it up, so.
Well, it has to be life safety, so it'd either have to be something getting you to ADA or, you know, life safety, fire alarm, fire sprinklers.
Personally, I would just like to see, I'd like to, I agree with what everyone's saying, and certainly the C1 was another new zoning that we created, just as we created the B1, and we tied this to the B1, and perhaps we do, in the future, look at other parts of town to come up with similar programs. But I'm not really in favor of holding up on this now. I mean, you know, this fire alarm thing's been going on for what, 8 years, I think, 6 years, 7 years, whatever it is. And I want to just bite the bullet, get it done, and then let's look at these other areas of town and see, maybe there's some sort of a grant program we can find money
Why
to
would
do.
these businesses get an advantage?
I'm not saying, I'm just saying
I'm
this
saying
is,
the way that this would word, to give them an extra 30,000, I'm not in the B1, where's my 30,000?
well,
Where's my
it's not
15,000?
30,000 for one
Well,
person,
but
let's be
where's my
clear on
15,000?
that.
Where's
I
my,
just think
you know-
because we had the B1 established, we've had, this is not new, this program has been in place for a number of years. It just happens that now we finally, after all these years, are, you know, saying we've got to enforce the ordinance. But I think we should look at other areas. I have no problem with that.
Yeah, that's fine. The rationale historically, and I think Ron pointed out to this, was it was designated the downtown as a development district because it was lagging behind other parts of the business, other parts of the village that were developing, particularly Ogden Avenue. And it was felt that it needed a kickstart in a variety of areas. You've done the ultimate kickstart with the establishment of a TIF district, but this goes far back. This goes back to, I think, 2001. If not earlier, to provide some way to improve the facades, and then it turned to life safety. All you're doing is bumping up the amount.
Well, and I would like to clarify on that, John. It was not originally a life safety. That was added along the way. It was for the beautification of the downtown. That was added along the way, again, because of that fire ordinance, where we were encouraging, because most of the businesses downtown were not compliant. So this was a way to help that. Now we're talking about increasing and helping that specific group again, over and above what was started as a beautification program. Now we're discriminating against those other areas by not helping them with with the fire alarm ordinance, and we're increasing an amount that originally was set aside for beautification. So again, I couldn't be more adamantly against it to do this. You know.
The way I see it is, you know, it was an incentive for the downtown area. And just like the TIFs would be incentives for these other areas in town as we develop them. But I'm certainly open to the idea of expanding that program to the other areas of town. But not now. I want to see the fire department get the compliance that we need in the downtown business area. And then let's address these other concerns, because they're legitimate concerns and they deserve,
Absolutely.
you know, a hearing.
But you're saying, see, the problem with the ordinance is, it's already past due. That's why they tied in this 30 days.
Absolutely.
So how are you going to help those other businesses in that fast response when you're starting to talk about look into? You know, there's no time
But I'm
to
talking
look
about,
into.
no, I'm talking about for next fiscal year, if we can expand the grant program and allocate more money to that, so that it is across the community.
think the question is that we've set up these 2 grants for the downtown business district, and now there's been an exceptional amount of requests for the life safety. And it's really the choice of the board. Do we want to enhance that for these people that are requesting it, or with more money, or do we just want to table it? Like, and there is a motion, it hasn't been seconded yet. And I had the same comments from different business people outside of the central business district, and I'm sure all of us have. But unfortunately, this has been set up that way with Main Street, and it's carried on. I don't even know what year did we add the life safety. I'll
wanna
get
say
that,
about
because that wasn't the
2000
first part. It was a facade, it's beautification.
Like 2007,
It was about
2008?
4 years ago.
Yeah, it's been about 4
years ago. And again, it was tied into the same program. It had to be for the central business district. So,
Have we ever had anybody from outside the district complain about the facade grant?
Never. No, I haven't.
Or come to the village and say, why aren't we included if I want to fix up my place? And
But to that point, the village didn't force people to fix up their buildings. The village forced people to put fire alarms in. So that's a little bit different.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You know, the village doesn't come and say you have to do an awning. People are choosing to do that, and they're investing.
Right,
So-
but we need to also be clear that the sole purpose isn't only for fire alarms. If they're upgrading electrical or upgrading that grant is for more than just fire alarms.
it's called life safety.
It's life safety things, so it's not like we earmarked it only for the fire
But I
alarms.
think it's
We
been
just
driven,
didn't.
it's driven by the fact that we
It's
had a lot
being
more
used for
requests
that.
for the
Mhm.
fire alarms. And that's,
And
so-
to that point, Mayor, we do have several pending applications that are kind of on hold until we determine whether we're going to make the increase or not.
so we've used up this year's a lot.
We have 2 more, I think, that will be on the next agenda for your consideration, and then we will officially be out of the funding. And there are about a half dozen other applications that we have just kind of pending until the outcome of this decision is reached. People are waiting to hear the response to the request for the grant.
Okay, there has been a motion. Do I hear to
I
table
would-
it? The motion right now is to table it. Is there a second?
I would second that motion to
Trustee
table.
Barry tables it.
And I would prefer you use
second it.
the term postpone.
Postpone.
You're postponing it.
Which means postpone.
Works for me.
It means, all right. Is anybody in the audience who has a comment? Trustees, on the question? The motion, of course, is that we postpone this to a future meeting to discuss it further. I'll ask for a roll call.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
No.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
No.
Okay, this item will be postponed. I'm assuming in 2 weeks we'll,
Can I just make a quick observation or recommendation, since this is going to be postponed? The applications that we have pending, can we agree that we let them start the work because they need to do that, and we would reimburse at a later date? Sort of do it a little bit backwards, like
well,
they can come after the work is completed
the
and
two
get it?
that you have in, the other 6 are still to be filed, or they've already been filed?
They've been filed. We were just waiting for the outcome of whether the funding would be increased before we put it on a board agenda. And the way that the program is set up, the grant has to actually be approved by the village board before someone is authorized to
Right.
do the work. So I think that's what Trustee
So if we
Seneca
could
is
just
getting.
agree that
If it's approved.
If it's
if
approved.
it's approved at a later
Otherwise,
date.
it's their risk.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. If this board approves additional money, then they would be eligible for it, even if they started the work already.
Right, that
We
was my
still got to
point.
approve the money.
So temporarily
Right.
waiving the.
Yeah, the money would have to be approved.
Restriction on when they need to
They have
apply.
to do it whether they
Okay.
get the money or not.
No,
You know, I mean, so.
Yeah.
but I guess we're saying is they shouldn't wait
No.
pending this. That's what they're saying. So go ahead and start like we said they're supposed to do it. And don't use the excuse that they're waiting here for the grant. I
Right.
guess that's what Trustee Barry, what we're saying. So I guess I'd entertain a motion to that effect, that we waive that restriction
If the funding increases.
if the funding
If it's-
If the
increases.
funding increases.
No, that's not on the agenda, so we can't do it
can't vote on
tonight,
it.
but
Right.
let's.
We can do it in the future.
We do it in the future.
Are
Let's
those-
see what happens on the
next
vote in
meeting.
2 weeks, and then we can add it later.
Those are all life safety grants, they're not?
Yes.
Okay, we have no pending facade grant requests.
There's one that's in the works, but it's not part of the 6 that I referred to.
Okay, so we would not be saying that for the facade grant.
Correct.
Okay.
And Shannon, what is the balance on the facade grant? Is there a possibility, instead of increasing this, to take away from the facade if you feel that it's not going to be used this year?
Our finance director was very helpful and creative in coming up with ways for us to fund this. However, it's a separately funded line item, which he can discuss a little bit further with the tourism and convention.
Yeah, that's basically the answer. Because the facade grant portion is funded from our hotel motel taxes, which are to attract convention and tourism, it was felt that because it was the district, because it was dedicated to beautification, that's a valid use for those funds. However, the life safety portion of it was segregated out of the convention tourism fund. It was determined we had to use the general funds to fund that as opposed to the hotel motel taxes. So we can't actually take from one to use for the other at this point.
Understood.
Now that we're no longer home rule.
Can I ask how we handle this now? It goes back to committee?
Well, that's what I guess I was going to say the same thing. Bruce,
I think
is
it comes back on the next agenda as old business.
Well, but
What does the trustees want in addition prior to that, I guess? Do you want some additional?
Well, one of the things I wanted to do was, and to be honest with you, I missed the boat at the last meeting by not using the motion to postpone or table. We should have done that. We should have done that with the signed ordinance proposal and given the chamber time to give some input into that before we just did it. And again, I'm going back to something we all discussed and said that if there was a trustee that was uncomfortable, that we would support the postponement for a meeting to give time to think about it, and apparently that's no longer the case.
We just proved it is.
That would have vote went 4-2. It was my impression that if one trustee said they weren't comfortable, we were all going to support the feelings of that trustee. But that's neither here nor there. I would like, I talked to Larry a little bit before the meeting, and I'd like to have him maybe poll some of his people and see how they feel about it. I just wanted to buy some time to get some input from our business community rather than say, hey, here's the deal, this is what we did.
And I
You
think we
don't
all,
necessarily need something from staff.
Yeah.
yeah,
You're just going to be gathering this information
Yeah,
for your.
and I'll bring it back. I'm not against this at all. I just think we need to do a little more work, and all I was asking for is give me 2 weeks to,
I think
to waste my time or not waste my time as the information comes
very
out.
reasonable request, and I do have to comment on the one item that you said about we felt that if a trustee wanted to postpone something, and after discussing with the attorney, my decision was that we shouldn't have one attorney being able to, one attorney, we got one attorney.
or one that thinks they are.
One trustee being able to block something just because they want to. And I felt that the only appropriate way to do that is that we needed a motion and have a vote on it. So that's where that was changed. And I think in respect for a trustee, I think we in agreement that if somebody wasn't comfortable, we go along with it. And I think tonight we did. So, I mean, it passed to be postponed, that table. So, okay.
Shannon, can I just ask one question?
Yes, sir.
How many people haven't done the application form?
Jim, I don't suppose you have. What are the remaining number of B1 businesses that have not yet come forward and applied? One of the follow-up steps is that we actually would draft a letter so that people know whether the grant money is there or not. And I think that the number of people in compliance changes every week as people are coming into compliance. So I don't know if you have a rough guess at this point.
Rough guess is we're down to a couple dozen or less. It's not a large number.
Is that village-wide or in the B1?
Well, it's almost the same answer, because
Oh, okay.
most of the non-compliance is primarily.
In the B1?
B1s. And those numbers do change almost daily, so take that as an approximate number. We get you exact number in a staff report if you want.
And our original drop dead date was,
The 30th of June.
right?
Maybe it would be a time to grandfather those remaining ones in, leave them the way they are. Maybe now would be the time to look at that, maybe possibly.
I did just want to comment that, as was discussed at the committee meeting, if we look at the number of businesses that haven't yet received the grant funding to help them come into compliance, that was 31 if we just go with what was originally budgeted as opposed to adding any additional in. So just to put that number out there as well. Thank you.
So again, though, we may want to look, instead of just being in the B1, that if we're going to open up this $30,000, open it up to anyone who's not complied yet? Is that?
That would have to change. The way the ordinance is drafted now, it only pertains to the central business district.
Right.
Right, because it was established as a development district, and that's the authority to have this grant program in the first place. There was talk about expanding this in the future, so if you want to do that sooner rather than later, I think you'd have to study what districts to make it applicable to. Manager Searle mentioned.
Can you grow existing districts? Can you add on? Or do you have to create all new districts?
Add on, increase the size of an existing district?
Yes.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have to create a whole new one.
Guess not.
So in other words, instead of the B1 district, where it would have its beautification grant, maybe the life safety grant is village-wide. Because life safety would not just be concentrated to the downtown. It would be a, citywide, village-wide concern, where, again, originally it was a facade improvement. Again, as a person who's not in the B1, it seems somewhat discriminatory to me that not only they got help, what was budgeted, but now they're getting more help, or could potentially get more help.
But you got to remember what we're looking at. The B1 downtown is the oldest part of the town.
Right.
Everything else south and north has been, modern days, which has better electric, better construction, better everything. The reason was because of the wood construction and the old construction that's in the downtown that we felt it was the most necessary to do this.
And the close proximity of the building, so. if
Right,
fire
exactly,
starts,
they were
it's
all
gonna
so
spread.
close, so. It wasn't picking on the downtown, it was just they're the ones that needed the most help.
And still do.
And if it was the south end of town, we'd be doing the south end of town. If it was the north, it was, but it's,
So to the next agenda, we're going to have to make sure we think it through, and if something like that's to be considered and to be voted on, it needs to then be reflected on the agenda. So we'll have to discuss how we prepare the next agenda.
Well, why don't we suggest, if any trustees have specific, sub-points that you want to consider, maybe to either let you or I know before the next agenda, and then we'll try to craft the agenda in that manner so that you can have that for consideration.
I think I've already done that with both of you, right?
Yeah, you opened your big
We're up to speed, right?
Well, I want to make sure the wording is how you would like it.
I'd like to get all that information ahead of time, as much lead time as we could, because, a particular question may initiate another question and have a chance to ask and answer.
Well, because you voted against it, that's not possible.
No, because my impression at being new at this is that I felt that we had, a program that was gonna go forward. Just because the guy's having surgery.
Medicine.
But anyway, we had a program that was gonna go forward. And the issue is, to Harold's point, is that it doesn't cover the entire town. And it was, the answer to that is, it was never designed to. And this was done 4 years ago. All we want to do is bring more aid to the downtown, but we don't want to forget about everybody else. And so that's a whole nother issue. That's a whole nother program.
And that may be exactly where this thing is going,
and
Bruce.
that's-
I don't
and-
disagree with you.
And just to, to Jim's point about we didn't all stick together on that vote, and we didn't. And my thought on that was, this has been in place for a number of years. Let's continue with the program, let it roll, through the duration, and let's get on the stick right now, through committee, through agenda, whatever, and look at the other areas, come up with programs if we can financially do it. But my thought, and why I didn't go along with it and still feel that we're doing the wrong thing, is this has been in place for a number of years for, Trustee Scott eloquently and correctly described why we did it. Bruce's point is
Yeah.
very well taken. So I'd like to see this actually go to committee. I'm not going to be ready to vote on a program for the rest of the community by next meeting, or even by 2 meetings. I think it's something that we labored long and hard over coming up with this one. So it's not something we can just table for 2 weeks and then magically have an answer,
Yeah, well,
in my mind.
And that's the point, is the issue that we have in front of us is a different issue.
It's a different issue.
And I don't know where we're gonna get any new
So
information.
holding up this issue, I don't see how that helps, but we've done it, and I understand that, and I accept that. But I'd like to work on something so that we can get this going for
Well,
the next set.
But
of
where I
meetings.
was kind of taken back, and again, I'm the new guy, and we're at a Public Works meeting prior to this, and we talk about that the school safety lines, we didn't have in the budget to pay help to paint those lines before the school starts. But yet now all of a sudden we
Sure,
have
that's what was said.
$30,000 to increase a grant.
Right. That's another issue.
That's another issue, and that
Well,
isn't
but
really
we
even
We
what
gotta
was said.
solve, we gotta solve that one too.
Well,
Yes.
right, it is and it isn't, but if we don't have the money, I can't justify giving 30,000.
Well, I don't think we're not saying right now we don't have the money, and we didn't say we didn't have the money there. It was just not a budgeted item for this year, and the whole community is not a budgeted item for this year. But just as we found money to add, perhaps our finance director extraordinaire can come up and we can, tweak and find some places, so.
I think he already has, and I think we discussed that he feels that we could, and it could have been 30,000 for something else to go along with.
Exactly.
But in this case, we were addressing this specific
Right.
item, and I think Spencer came up with a plan where we looked at it and we decided that there was appropriate funding that we could shift to that,
Right.
if this board decided to vote for it. So I guess I would tend to agree with trustee Seneca that if we're going to do something in addition, let the committee bring that before us, and in 2 weeks, we should probably just basically vote if we want to increase the budget or not. And and that'll be in your packet a week from Friday.
Yeah.
You get it 6 days ahead of time, and then we'll vote and decide if we're going to add 30,000. Is it additional 30? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, it would be adding $30,000.
What you'd have to do is, basically, you're reallocating money that's already been allocated for one purpose to another purpose, as long as it's within that same fund.
And I think, Spencer, that's what you were doing. And maybe in the packet, either you can explain it now, and you can also include in our packet where you're going to magically come up with that.
As was discussed at the Public Safety Committee meeting, we would be doing that with items that have been appropriated. So we've got some additional money that's been appropriated, so legally we can spend it, but it is $30,000 that's not within the budget. And so, as we've talked about, there's been several things that have come up recently that have not been in the budget that we've made sure and been able to determine that we've had enough appropriations amounts to cover it, so legally we're okay. But our budgeted plan, we're going over with it. As I talked about before, we've got the tree removal with the emerald ash borers that we've got. We have the funds appropriated, but it's not necessarily in the budget. There's similar things that we can do with this. We've got some extra money appropriated for community projects that we can shift towards funding this. We've got some additional money appropriated. When we did the appropriation, we appropriated a little bit additional in this area for this, just in case there was some additional desire to do this. As I mentioned before, I think with the several other things that we've got that have already sort of been there as changes from the budget, I think once we do this 30,000, we're going to be pretty close to our limit of not wanting to do very much else that's unbudgeted, even if we have it as appropriated, unless we find some other ways to cut. At the committee meeting, we did discuss possibilities of, maintaining additional vacancies. We have a couple of vacancies we're planning to fill. One of them, we discussed the possibility of if we wanted to find some additional funding for this program, or similarly, if we wanted to do it for another program, we could look at postponing filling that vacancy, or not filling that vacancy. That'd be another way to save some more money on the budgeted side. But so we do have the appropriations where we can reallocate it. We have not identified at this point any budget amounts, which is sort of our plan of how we plan to spend it, to reallocate. We're sort of thinking that we're okay, hoping that we'll be okay, the revenues will be a little bit higher, the expenses will be a little bit less, and that we're going to be okay with that. But I don't know that we want to continue doing that much beyond what we've done with the emerald ash borer, what we found out with fire revenue reductions, and what we're looking at with this. I mean, I think we're kind of at the limit with this until we start actually looking at making other changes. So
And-
that's kind of what was discussed at that
Just
meeting.
to clarify, the discussion was not to, it was to postpone the hiring for a couple months, not to eliminate the hiring of a position, but just wait, and we felt that we could do that, and it wouldn't hurt.
Right, depending on the amount of money we needed to generate, we could just postpone it for a couple of months, or we could look at, not filling the position either way. At this point, we decided we didn't need to do anything different because of where we already are in the hiring process, because of the time it's been through the month. In order to do this 30,000, we felt comfortable with doing it without making any additional changes. If we want to do additional money beyond the 30,000 for other programs, that's an avenue we could look at. We could certainly look at other budget areas to cut too.
And again, to just go back and Harold brought up the point of from the Public Works meeting. I think that had us not painting was more of the budget and not budgeting additional seasonal help to help Jimmy, right, with the painting. It wasn't that we were never contracting it out. I think that was just manpower, people power type of, that we.
But ultimately a money issue.
Well, it was because they cut back some of the
It was
seasonal
just
staff.
one point that I said might have possibly needed. I don't know what the reasoning was behind doing it, and we don't necessarily do all of them every year, so it's something I have to look into.
So I guess the bottom line is, if you can provide us some information in our Friday packet.
Yes, and may I just make maybe a point/question? In the write-up for you this evening, there's a reference to a 30-day deadline. I think it would be best if we were able to give the property owners and businesses the benefit of that full 30 days. So when we do consider this at the next set of meetings, I would simply ask that it would be considered 30 days from the approval, for example, or excuse me, 30 days from a letter going out, to let folks know that the ordinance has been approved if it is in fact approved.
I think he did 30 days from approval, right?
She's suggesting something a little different. It says 30 days from approval. She wants 30 days from when a letter gets
So
sent
like
out.
within a day or so of the approval, we would send out a letter. I would just like to give folks that full 30 days if possible to make their application.
If
That makes sense.
if we pass it, yes.
And who is the contact person? Is it Spencer? Who has more information on this? Is it Shannon?
About the program?
About the grant and program in
I'm the
general.
contact
Okay,
for the
very
program.
good, Shannon. Thank you.
Sure.
Trustee Scott?
Well, I think we got to keep it as a district-based programs. I can't see making this thing village-wide. It's going to be too hard for any new trustees or even staff just to keep up on it all the time. If district, we've got this one done, we've got that one done. It's not like we're trying to cover the whole town, and at once. I think district-wise, it's the best way to keep it.
Again, for next year, if we want to look at a different district, the South District, North District, or wherever, we can do that. So I'm all in agreement that this next meeting, this postponement of this, we'll just vote on increasing the money or not increasing the money for this fiscal year.
And I think on the south end of it, the TIF, we would hopefully, no one would be coming to us for it, because, let's face it, the object is that we don't want to use any more resources that are not necessary to be used. So.
I agree.
Good point.
Anything else on this? If not, then it is postponed, and additional information will be in our Friday packet next week. Thank you. New business F, wireless and VoIP telecommunications services contract. Or to consider an ordinance approving the H-GAC contract number CW10-09 between Sprint and the Village of Westmont for wireless services. Manager Searle.
This is a contract that provides for the voice over IP is our telephone service, and this is bid out under the Houston-Galveston Area Council, and it's between that group and the Village of Westmont to provide that service. We went to voice over IP telecommunications probably, say, 4 or 5 years ago, I would say at this point. Found a significant savings by doing so, and eliminating the number of actual hard telephone lines that we had with AT&T and other providers.
Anybody in the audience have a question on this ordinance? Trustees? If not, then I will entertain a motion to approve as presented.
So move, Scott.
Second, Barker.
Motion been made and second to approve. On the question, seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Ed.
Yes.
The last new business item are the two consent agenda items that were pulled off.
Wait a minute, we have
You got number G.
We have
What did I miss?
Westmont Police Department, Northwestern University.
Well, now they don't put that on my agenda, huh?
Oh.
Let me see yours. It wasn't on mine. All right.
It's not mine either.
It wasn't on Ron's either, so they sneak a couple by us here. Okay, agenda item G, I'm sorry, the Westmont Police Department Northwestern University Agreement. Board to consider an ordinance approving an agreement between the Village of Westmont Police Department and the Northwestern University Center for Public Safety to host the Supervision of Police Personnel Training Course in January 2014. Chief Muller.
Basically, an agreement between us and Northwestern allowing us to hold the course here at our police training center. We have done this in the past. We also can charge a little bit more than what Northwestern can to cover our costs. And what also brings, in the past, it's brought 25 police officers, some from Indiana, from other states, to our community. They shop and they go to lunch and they visit our area stores for the 2 weeks that they're here. So we're just basically asking for permission to enter this agreement to conduct the class.
So they hold the entire session here?
Yes, in our training center on the second floor.
Your training center, wow, beautiful.
Any additional questions? Anybody from the audience? Any trustees? And I'll, motion to approve.
So moved.
Second, Barry.
Well, you didn't say your name, so of course I Motion's been made and seconded to approve the ordinance as presented. No further questions, roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Okay. Now we'll move to, under new business, we moved the two consent agenda items that were removed. They were both purchase orders. On the agenda, it was I and double I, and one was for Curry Motors for $104,136, and the second was Public Safety Direct for $38,714. So the is now open for discussion. Trustee
Well,
Manning.
I opened my big mouth on this one, and this from the guy who wanted to give every police officer in town a card many years ago, when we had the residency requirement. But two questions, Chief. Why SUVs? And I think you may have answered some of these during the time of the budget hearings, but, you know, we really were audiences rather than participants. So that was my first question. Why are we going to SUVs?
SUVs are bigger, more roomier for our officers. It's their office for 12 hours a day. It allows for when our field training officers are training to be able to have more room for a second person sitting in the passenger seat. Right now, if you get in one of our Crown Victorias, you can't get in there. There's no room. And that was a problem we were having. More storage, more visibility. In some departments that have bought the Ford Interceptor, the sedan version, are unhappy because of size and regret that they bought the cars. They wish that they would have bought the SUVs. SUVs are, I believe, about only $2,000 more than a sedan.
And the all-wheel drive, I know.
All-wheel drive, all-time,
Snowstorm,
20,
yeah.
yes. And in our snow with our blizzard, we didn't have any, we had 3 vehicles. We had to borrow the Park District's vehicle, we had to buy street department vehicles, and a fire department vehicle because our squad cars were immobile.
What does it do to gas mileage?
The vehicles, these compared to the Crown Victorias that we were driving now are V8s. These are all V6s, and we're going to be realizing a gas savings.
The other thing that I wanted to mention was, just to clarify, are the version of the car that, the ones we're replacing, they no longer make that same version of a car. And so, a while ago, the village board had to make a decision as to which direction we wanted to go with our replacement vehicles, because we could no longer replace them at the same kind of vehicle that we had. And so the police department went through and looked at a lot of different options. One of the options was for the smaller versions, which, as they said, departments have had some problems with. And they selected this, which is not a full-sized SUV, it's more of a mid-sized SUV. So it's a little bit bigger than the current cars, but it's not the same size as the SUVs that we previously had. So we previously had some Tahoes that we were using, and those were what we were calling our SUVs, and we were calling our other vehicles just the squad cars. And now, because they no longer make those same squad cars, we're going to a mid-sized vehicle. And, you know, I just want to make it clear that we're not changing over our cars just because now we want to go to SUVs. It's in the regular vehicle replacement.
Right.
We would have been replacing them with Crown Victorias had that option still been around. Instead, we had to shift, and the choice was to go to a smaller vehicle or a little bit larger vehicle, but still not the full-size SUV, just to clarify that.
That part I think makes sense. For some reason, and maybe it's just because it's more because you see it here and you see, it seems that Oak Brook and some of the other communities have also doing this.
The Ford utility, police utility, I'll say for lack of the larger one, they're manufactured on the south side of Chicago. So the Chicago Police Department is changing to those. As Spencer said, Ford got out of making the Ford Interceptors, and it forced everyone to evaluate. We did a year-long study looking at Dodge vehicles, Chrysler vehicles, Chevrolets, and Fords. And our decision was to go to Fords. Our mechanics, recommended we go to Fords. The utility, again, for size, it's just something that you'll see more and more police departments. You'll see them more and more on TV. You see them in Chicago. You'll see them out here in the suburbs. It's this Ford utility vehicle. State police is just currently, I noticed yesterday, are going to Chevys. However, through our performance, our tests, reading all our research, we're very happy with these vehicles. One thing I may also point out too, in the past we used to purchase 5 vehicles a year through our budget cuts and everything. We reduced that to 4.
Okay.
And I saw that it was from Curry Motors, so I assume that we explored, like Trustee Barker's trying to promote here, this Westmont First, we explored the Auto Mile, and none of those were a good fit, I'm assuming?
It's a state purchase order, and they had the cert purchase order bid.
And
So
it's
that's the
done
lowest,
through
but
that,
rather
done
than us
that way
going
because
in-
they do it in 25 or 50 or 100 all at one time.
Rather than us going doing car shopping, it's a state bid. It's a state bid that they, Ford negotiated with them. Curry Motors currently has the state bid.
I think we've been doing it that way for 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The other question, the second purchase order for the equipment then is because we're changing the type of vehicle, do you have to go to all new equipment?
Some of the vehicle can be used, some cannot. Yes, you're correct. The Ford Interceptors or Ford Crown Victorias, the prisoner partitions and prisoner seats will not fit in the new vehicles.
So this isn't the computers and all that stuff, this is the other things that go into the vehicle to make it a working police vehicle?
When we change over a vehicle, we try to use all the existing lighting and equipment, everything we possibly can, but you're correct, because of the body style and changes, some are not. The overhead lights were okay, in the back we are not. The arrow sticks and everything in the back we're not. We try to use as much as we can, that's why you'll see it's an estimate, it's not an exact cost, because we don't know exactly what equipment we can change over.
Well, those were the 2 easy questions. You ready for number 3?
Sir?
Question number 3. You want to get 4 new vehicles. Every time I drive by the police department, and I live right there, you've got 4 to 6 cars parked in the parking lot all the time.
We reduced our fleet from 14 patrol vehicles down to 12. During our budget process, we did that, because it was, we have vehicles that may go offline. We have vehicles that go down. We have a minimum shift requirement that's out there. It depends. There's times where we have extra cars sitting there, and there's times you can go by, you don't. I've gone by and said, where are all our cars? Well, 3 cars are down for service. Some are over here, some are over there. Our maximum shift amount is 7 officers out there. We have 12 vehicles. We got to have some in reserve because if some of the officers are on a detail or doing
But
something.
isn't one of your existing SUVs doesn't go really into service at all? That's your crime lab vehicle.
They are. It's driven by our crime scene technicians. We have two, Spencer mentioned the Chevy Tahoes, one's for our truck enforcement officers, one for the crime scene technician. So it may be sitting there depending if there's a crime scene technician working. That vehicle, we do not let another officer take.
And the other two or three you just need because they go up and down?
Yes. I mean, it's a number that we worked with, that the last board asked us to relook at our fleet. We reduced it by 2, because now we'll be able to extend our computers, be able to extend our in-car camera systems a little bit more. We went down from 14 to 12. And
I have eyes like everybody else has. And I'm not the only one who drives up and down Cass Avenue. Is there any way, and I've heard this probably 50 times, look at all the cars that sit there. Why do we park them on the side instead of in the back?
our facility is parking challenged, I guess you could
Okay.
say. You have the employees that park around in the back. The employees have their cars around to the back side of the building. You have parking for firefighters and for police officers there as well. That's just where the cars are stored normally there. We can't put them on the side. You'll see that when we have training dates, when we have other events. We try to clear out the parking lot because we're trying to put people no
Well, like
longer
even,
in the
yeah.
library in our building. So
I agree.
again, it depends on the number of officers on the street and also the condition of the vehicles.
But I will tell you, that is something that is mentioned to me by my neighbors. It's mentioned to me by other people, like if I go to a restaurant to eat, and they'll say, I don't understand why we have all these cars just sitting around the police department, none of them ever go anywhere.
Well, some of them, the officers could be in on arrest, they could be doing a report, they could be doing training, there's all sorts of reasons.
Which is
why.
kind of my answer. I said, well, you know, I think a DUI is probably still, what, an hour and a half to 2 hours?
Yeah, at the minimum.
So,
usually
and
on
that, and
arrest-
he's off the street for that time.
And usually in arrest, the cars are inside the garage, and our garage is a 4-bay garage, but we only fit 2 cars in there, so.
And I know that periodically you'll place those extra cars at, if an area has any crimes, you might leave it at a gas station or in a parking lot of a shopping center or
We
something.
call those decoy cars. If we have an area where there's a lot of car burglaries, or the mayor mentioned armed robberies or something like that, we will put a car, it's an unmanned car in that area, but it also makes the bad guy start to think, oh, wait, if there's a car, there's an officer nearby, where are they? We usually, put it in just neighborhoods just to have a presence as part of a traffic control. You see a squad car, what do? You slow down. So if we get complaints of speeding cars, we'll put a car there. Be an unmanned car, and then about the next week, all of a sudden it's a manned car. Because people start to get used to, oh, it's just a car with nobody in it. No, not always.
Well, I know it's never gonna happen, but I still want to return the residency requirement, let them all take cars home with them and take their kids to school and go to the Jewel and everything else. I think that's the best crime prevention you ever could have. But it ain't gonna happen,
These,
so.
on these two purchase orders, if we do have a motion, you can just one motion.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve. He answered
both.
all my questions. He was good.
There's a motion to approve both these purchase orders.
Second, Scott.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further questions?
Thank you, Chief.
If not, roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Okay, is there any other business? No, Trustee Barry, anybody?
No, you covered it.
I do have
Good
to
job.
make one more comment that even though, from my viewpoint, I really feel that the discussion we've had this evening is healthy. I mean, even though we may not agree, but it's always good to bring up comments from different perspectives that we all come from, so that we can discuss it openly and we can come to some agreement. So I don't think anything that we've discussed this evening, I think is all beneficial, even postponing something so we can do additional research. So I'm very pleased with the way we ran the meeting this evening. So if there aren't any further business, the last will be the executive session.
Pending
The
litigation.
board may adjourn to closed session, discuss matters so permitted, and may act upon such matters upon returning to open session. There being no further business, I entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing pending litigation, to discuss the case Hawthorne Bank of Wheaton versus Westmont. I need a motion for that.
Motion to go into executive
Second.
session for pending litigation.
Roll call.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Seneca.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Scott.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
And after the executive session, there will be no further
Because I'm tired of
action other than adjournment. So this meeting is adjourned to an executive session.